Welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast, a podcast from the home of Scrum. In this podcast, we feature professional Scrum trainers and other Scrum practitioners sharing their stories and experiences to help learn from the experience of others. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dave West, CEO here at Scrum.org. Today's podcast is the Scrum Master Real Talk series podcast. This is a special series. We want to hear from Scrum Masters sharing personal stories, whether it's about overcoming obstacles, creative solutions to problems, or critical lessons they learn on their journey to be a Scrum Master. So today, we're very fortunate to have with us Andreas Whitla based in Germany. He's going to join us and talk a little bit about his experiences and his journey. I've actually spent a bit of time with Andreas around the world, so I'm really excited to have Andreas on the podcast today. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, and thank you for having me. And it's a great opportunity. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Okay, well, let's get in there then. So how did you start your Scrum Master journey?
I started it while turning around a hospital that was in economic trouble. And we, without knowing, referred to Agile principles and found out week after week what to improve, and finally succeeded in turning this thing around. So it was a quite interesting experience. And after that, I thought I would like to work always like that. The formal training of Scrum Master training started. And after a while, I couldn't get enough. I started with the traditional PSM1 and then went on and on and on and on. And until now, I almost finished them all, catch them all.
Oh wow! You are one of those very few people in the world that have taken many of the certifications, and but that isn't the reason why you're here today. Really, though those certifications are awesome and we love them, it's your experiences. That hospital sounds really interesting. So they were having some operational challenges.
Oh yes, yeah. The thing with hospitals is they care for people, not for the financial side on the first hand. So then they had a data lake of patients and data, how they treated them. They had their financial side, but apart from it, and they had the people doing the work, a third side of that picture. And all these fees were little connected, if at all. So to have a clear view around the economic side of all these value streams, if you want to say something like that, then they had to say, well, we don't know. We just care for treating people here. And that brought them a lot of struggle. So we started with implementing some BI software there and then found out where to improve things. And I work with nurses and technicians, normal people, young doctors, experienced doctors, whoever wanted. All these volunteers wanted to save their company. A great experience. And that
It is, yeah.
Where it started, yeah.
And obviously you get to see the benefits continuously in a situation like that. I had a similar experience in an animal hospital, so a veterinarian, and they were having, COVID hit, and basically they were trying to operate, with all the safeguards in place and the relationship with the customer, the person that pays them, the pet owner kind of broke down, and the operational system started to collapse. And so we just did something very simple. We got a backlog of challenges, and we incrementally, in these small chunks of time, focused on one at a time. We fixed it. We got feedback, met daily, and amazing things happen. Okay, so I it's funny that you mention hospitals, because I think that side of the use of Scrum is something that we often don't talk about. So you went from then, you were like, I'm into this Agile stuff. This is awesome. So what other types of organizations have you worked with?
My second job as a Scrum Master was with a small startup. We had the challenge of including 6 locations, 5 different cultures, They went for cost-efficient offshore nearshoring solutions with someone in India as well. So it's been a few time zones, and we had our cultural differences. That was very, very interesting. And right now I'm working with one of the largest organizations in Germany. They are providing the public transport with trains. So yeah, you name it, I have done it. Somehow it is from very, very small to very, very large. I also worked for BP in London. So yeah, it's not only for German companies.
Interesting. So your journey has been very varied, and that's one of the benefits of being a Scrum Master, right? You get the opportunity to work with many different types of organizations and
Oh yeah,
learn
yeah.
about what they're doing. Was
And
it?
sorry to interrupt that, and I'm thankful for this broad of views on people. Working with people in Shanghai or in, I don't know, Auckland, New Zealand, or in Bengaluru is so different. And even Scrum is not the same. It depends what on also the cultural background of people working
Yeah.
together.
So what was the same between all these organizations? Why, what sort of was the universal connection point, do you feel?
Mhm.
Was it the
Mhm.
challenges that they faced, or was
Of
it?
course, yeah. The challenges, the complex challenges, no easy way out. And then all of them called it Scrum, whatever it was, they called it Scrum for the first. But they wanted to succeed and deliver services, valuable services to their customers. And that was the main point. They didn't have um, a clear master plan or something. They just started where they are, Kanban style, I would say. And then we found out by doing the work, improving from sprint to sprint, whatever could be improved within the constraints, the given constraints, of course.
That sounds so. I get that sounds really simple in lots of ways, but obviously the reality when you've got human beings, systems, legacy systems, existing environments, etc. It's a lot harder than that. What are the biggest challenges you have faced
Mhm.
as a Scrum Master?
I must admit, always we started in situations where work was pushed into the teams. So a pull system, what is the theory of Scrum? Creating a pull system was not there. It was not a greenfield situation, something like that. And the second most important thing is balancing learning against delivery. It is not a contrast. It is a do this and that, and find time for learning and improving things, and defend the team in this regards towards they have to have time for learning and experimenting, doing spikes and all that. Yeah. As I said, it was not an easy way out in either situation.
So did with respect to the sort of pull versus push kind of situation, ultimately it's something that I've seen a lot, but ultimately Scrum teams benefit from the ability to own their own destiny. And one of the biggest challenges that I've seen, I was in 2019, I was in São Paulo in Brazil, and I spent a week visiting lots and lots of Scrum teams. It was really, really awesome. And the one thing I noticed over and over again was that their sprint reviews, their sprint planning sessions, even their dailies were very much about doing the work that they were told to do. They didn't talk about outcomes, they didn't talk about value. Is that
Mhm.
similar to what when you're talking about pulling versus pushing?
Yes, of course. And it is coming from the traditional background, how you see yourself as a developer. What is it? Are you being asked to do something, or are you thinking, how could this outcome be reached, even in better ways? Right now, we are working with 3 teams on one product. So this is a situation a little bit different from normal classical Scrum with one product and one team doing the work. So coordinating, finding within the constraints of the organizations your personal way. Every team has a personal way. And then it is about working together. It is not working separately in a co-working space. So there is conflict, inevitable. You can't start Scrum without having conflict. working through this, finding your way of dealing with healthy conflict, that is really challenging. And it is a joy of my role. I would say that treating all these adults as adults and helping them to find their ways of collaborating, that is really interesting. And every day there's something new around the corner for me. I can plan my day, but just the first or second meeting, the days would be like planned, and then the rest goes, I don't know where.
And so as a Scrum Master, you ultimately are jumping in, you're noticing issues, you're jumping in, trying to help the teams, and you've got 3 teams working on one product, hopefully using a Nexus. There's quite an interesting book written about that, just saying in passing. But hopefully these 3 teams, so you've got these 3 teams working together, and during the day, ultimately, your job is to ensure that they're effectively collaborating, dependencies are being effectively managed, impediments are being removed, you're making things more transparent so the teams can take ownership and control. Does that really sum up your job as a Scrum Master?
It is part of it, and my first job is to find out what is it that I will be doing today against the plan. What I have planned is only my idea, my assumption based on what I knew yesterday. But then after the dailies, I have a clearer picture, and I see sometimes conflict being in the open, conflict being avoided, opportunities lost. So it is not just facilitating a meeting. Someone can say Scrum Masters are just facilitators or secretaries to teams or something. No, it's much more teaching and coaching, finding the time to work with individuals, of course. And that, I would say, is a distinction between many Scrum Masters not doing that individual coaching a lot, and then the ones just walking into that direction and helping the teams and their members. And I'm stealing a lot of insights and also practices from couples therapy. Sorry to name this.
Oh gosh.
But David Snarge and Esther Perel and so many good couple therapists, they have so clear angles on solving problems between people that I simply said, yeah, that's it. I want to try it, and it worked.
Wow. That's a little bit of a surprise. I've not been to couples therapy, but and as my wife walks by outside, I'm a little bit nervous to even talk about this subject in a group. But I think that the point, immaterial of whether it's couples therapy, whether it's theory of constraints, whether it's any of these things, the point that you raised is really that this idea that a good Scrum Master looks at the challenges and uses tools that aren't just from Scrum, but wherever they are, they're like, oh, that's interesting. I noticed a lot of conflict. I'll look at couples therapy or therapy in general. Oh, I've noticed that we're not getting much work through the system. Oh, maybe I can look at the theory of constraints, Kanban, techniques like that. So I think that's a key element of being a good Scrum Master. Would you agree, Andreas?
Absolutely, yes. It is balancing the team against their goals. So what is it that they are maybe over-focusing? Typical thing, delivery. And what is it that they are undervaluing? This open conflict is not necessarily bad. But working with a team in Shanghai, it is really hard to have a retro there where the elephant comes out and is being chopped and somehow treated as a team needs. Or to name another situation, we had a lot of teams with engineers from India, and they just wait. They don't talk easily. That is okay. It is something cultural, but then they have a lot of good ideas how to influence them, to put them on the table, to speak openly to the team what they are seeing, hearing, feeling, and thinking. That is really a challenge. For me as a German, it is sitting in the middle of it, and I like this conflict or discussions, open discussions. But it is not easy for people in Asia. It's not their style of working together in general. Working with a team in Oregon, something completely different.
Oh, yeah, yes. Our friends in Oregon are very different. So it is. I hate to say, you reminded me of a TV show. There's a TV show on Apple TV called Ted Lasso about an
Mm.
American coach that goes to the United Kingdom and plays soccer. And you know my love for soccer. We've talked at length. I bored you at length, and finally you managed to escape when you managed to get away from me talking about Leicester City. But he goes and he utilizes all sorts of different techniques to get the team to work together, believe in themselves,
Mm.
and taking them, bringing together this very disparate group of individuals that didn't necessarily want to work as a team, and ultimately not quite winning the Premier League. They ended up being second, but being oh gosh, for the spoiler alert, if anybody's not watched the series, I apologize. They might still win it, but it is a really interesting idea. And it's servant. Even though we dropped the word servant leader from the Scrum Guide, ultimately that is exactly what I hear when you speak.
Yeah. What is missing in the education of many developers is having good conversations. And that is something I found out only after a while. The conversation is the base plan for the day, having it in the daily and in all the talks alongside the work is the basis. And it is more likely than not that there is some misunderstanding, some aspect of the work not being caught properly, or someone thinking it is clear enough, but it is not, while doing the work and holding the work against the plan. It jumps out that it is something, there's a difference in assumptions or in how it is executed, or acceptance criteria, or you name it. So then how do we deal with this gap, and how do we find ourselves as a team doing the work together? It is not individuals can succeed at all. It is individuals, and they have to interact over the process of Scrum or whatever frameworks they use. But Scrum is helpful to bring this to the open.
Yeah, and I mean, making things transparent, actively sort of finding those challenges and resolving them. Okay, so if I'm new, if I, maybe I'm new to being a Scrum Master, maybe my boss has just said, "You'll be the Scrum Master. We're going to do Scrum." What advice? You've had a really interesting journey, and
Mhm.
a combination of really interesting experiences combined with formal learning and certification, etc. So what would you tell this new Scrum Master that's just joined this team or has been hoisted upon the team? What would you say to them?
First thing I would say, congratulations. This is a very challenging but also satisfying journey. It has been for me, and it will be till the end of my life, I hope. So it is about self-knowledge. It is also about recognizing the positive aspects in every team. And it is also being creative. It is a lot of creative work that is needed from our side. It is not facilitating meetings, it's working with people. And people are never the same, not even the same team in the same situation. After a couple of months, they behave differently, definitely. So we are on the journey, and this is not boring. This is a great opportunity to grow yourself, grow with the people, grow the people somehow as a coach in that sense of the picture. And yeah, find your own ways in this context. That is the challenge. You don't have a map. You don't have much of theory, just a few hints. It is a few events, a few roads, and then go for it. The artifacts are helping you to find your way.
So, what would you say the first thing they should do, though? They've got this new job. Is it active facilitating the events to gain credibility? Is it trying to raise, looking at the artifacts to make sure the transparency is appropriately held? Is it to look for the telltale signs of challenges, such as no sprint goal, cloudy product goal, product
Mm.
owner never in there? What do you think should be the first thing that they do?
That is the first thing to find out. So there is no silver bullet.
Oh,
And to find your own backlog items is the first challenge you have. As you start a new Scrum teams, build a backlog. So what is it, what you want to have in that backlog? The same thing is true for the Scrum Master. You are serving a team and you are the product owner of that situation. What is it? What your services shall provide in the end? Is the picture clear enough? Is it something like a vision that we have to create first before starting the work? Or is it something like how would we like to know each other? How deep shall this working together go? Maybe something like that. It is a lot of opportunities around you. You can't catch them all. In that sense, you have to prioritize and then start wherever you think it is the most value you can provide and learn from it. Get feedback, of course.
So the idea of creating your own backlog is a really powerful one, and something that I've tried many times, sometimes to success and sometimes less so. But I think it's a really, really, powerful idea, driving this transparency and visibility of the interaction, the things that you're focused on, and then having goals in the same way as sprints have goals, and tying those goals hopefully into the sprint goal and the work that you're doing, but ultimately developing your skills alongside the team to support that team, or just be a little ahead of the team, is also kind of useful as well. That's great advice. I
Maybe you can challenge yourself and build a one-day sprint backlog and see where it leads you. What is it that I want to finish this day? I want to provide to my team and get feedback on it.
That's a really interesting idea. The idea of that sort of like goal driven sort of management of your own time is a really powerful tool. Well, thank you. I could talk all day about these topics. As you well know, the product ownerships, Scrum, and Leicester City are the only things I talk about, which is very, very boring. But we could talk for days. So thank you for spending the time, Andreas, with us today.
Thank you for having me, Dave. Always a pleasure meeting you. Thanks a lot.
Well, today we were lucky to have Andreas Whitla based in Germany to talk about his Scrum Master journey, and how he went from helping a hospital to working in large organizations throughout the world with teams spread across the whole planet. Thank you for listening to today's Scrum.org community podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, share with friends, and of course, come back and listen to some more. I'm lucky enough to have a variety of guests talking about everything in the areas of professional Scrum, product thinking, and of course, Agile. Thanks, everybody, and Scrum on.